I'll never forget that day at the airport. My 7-year-old son, Ethan, artistic and sensitive, was having one of his worst meltdowns, screaming, rocking, covering his ears from the chaos around us. I was on my knees holding him, whispering that we'd be on the plane soon. Then, out of nowhere, this woman stormed over, yelling that he was ruining everyone's morning. Before I could even react, she grabbed her full cup of steaming coffee from the gate counter and hurled it straight at us. The scream that tore from Ethan still haunts me. The hot liquid soaked his hoodie, scalding his chest and arms. For a split second, he went silent, the kind of silence that comes from pure shock, then released a wail to cry I didn't know a child could make. I ripped his soaked hoodie off right there in the terminal, panic clawing at me as onlookers gasped and backed away. The woman, later I learned her name was Karen, stood there smugly, muttering that kids like him shouldn't be in public if they couldn't behave. I shook, trying to comfort Ethan while checking his skin, terrified by the welts already rising and blisters forming fast. A gate agent rushed over with ice and called for medical assistance, but Karen just crossed her arms, insisting we were faking it for attention. That's when I noticed her HOA president badge clipped to her designer bag, like it granted her authority everywhere. Even in an airport, security arrived within minutes, but she argued with them too, claiming Ethan lunged at her and she spilled the coffee by accident. I couldn't believe the lies while my little boy sobbed in my arms, his skin red and raw. The paramedics wrapped him in cool gauze and told us we needed to go to the hospital immediately. I thought that was the worst moment of my life, but I had no idea what was coming next. As they wheeled Ethan away on a stretcher, Karen followed, still loudly complaining that we were delaying the flight and demanding action against disruptive passengers. I looked back at her, tears streaming, and promised myself she wouldn't get away with it. Little did I know, someone else had already started ensuring that wouldn't happen. At the hospital, doctor confirmed second-degree burns on Ethan's chest and arms. He was in so much pain he couldn't even cry, just quiet, broken whimpers that tore my heart apart. I sat beside his bed, holding his tiny hand, while nurses applied burn cream and bandages, and all I could think about was a woman's face when she threw that coffee. How could anyone do that to a child? My phone kept buzzing, airline notifications. They had held the flight for us, but eventually had to leave. I thought our trip was over. 2 days later, Ethan was stable enough to fly, still wrapped in bandages and on pain meds. We arrived at the airport early, me pushing him in a wheelchair the hospital had loaned us. Crowds still overwhelmed him, and I feared running into Karen again. A different gate agent spotted us and waved us over. "Ma'am, we've been expecting you." She led us past the long economy line to the priority counter. I barely had time to ask what was happening before she handed me 2 first-class boarding passes. I stared confused. "No mistake," she whispered with a reassuring smile. Upper management had intervened. We boarded first, and the flight attendant assigned to first class treated us like family. Soft blanket, extra pillows, noise-canceling headphones, dimmed lights around our pod, so Ethan wouldn't be overstimulated. He actually fell asleep before takeoff, something that almost never happened. I finally exhaled for the first time in days. Mid-flight, the same attendant sat next to me during a quiet moment. "I need to tell you something," she said softly. "That woman from the gate, Karen Millstone, she flies this route every week. Always complains, demands upgrades, causes scenes. Crew calls her Gate 17 Karen behind her back." My stomach sank. So she had gotten away with it before. But not this time. Security footage clearly showed her deliberately throwing the coffee. No accident. Multiple passengers recorded it too. The airline's legal team contacted me the next day, asking if I wanted to press charges. I said yes without hesitation. Then came the part that floored me. Karen apparently tried to board her usual flight the next day. Karen acted like nothing had happened. She marched up to the gate agent, flashing her HOA president attitude, demanding a complimentary upgrade because she was a valued customer. The agent scanned her ticket, smiled politely, and said, "I'm sorry, ma'am. You've been placed on our no-fly list pending investigation." Karen completely lost it. She screamed that she'd sue the airline, that she knew lawyers, that her husband was very important. She even tried to push past the agent aboard. Security escorted her away while passengers clapped. Someone posted the video online, and it went viral overnight. Millions of views, people calling her every name imaginable. But she didn't stop there. A week later, I received a certified letter at home. Karen was suing me for defamation and emotional distress, claiming Ethan's meltdown had triggered her anxiety and that I'd orchestrated a smear campaign. I couldn't believe the audacity. My son was still healing from burns, and this woman was playing the victim. The airline's lawyers called the same day. They weren't just offending me. They were countersuing Karen for assault, child endangerment, and damages. They assured me all legal fees were covered and told me not to worry. I thought that was a peak of justice. But Karen was about to make everything 10 times worse. The court date arrived faster than I expected. Ethan, still wearing loose shirts to hide healing scars, insisted on coming with me. He wanted to see the bad lady apologize. I didn't have the heart to tell him it wouldn't happen. We walked into the courtroom, and there she was, Karen, dressed like she was attending a country club luncheon, sitting ramrod straight with her lawyer beside her. She didn't even glance at Ethan. The airline's legal team had stacks of evidence ready. Security footage, passenger videos, medical reports, witness statements. I thought it would be open and shut. But Karen took the stand. Her voice trembled immediately. She spoke about how Ethan's meltdown triggered her, how the noise caused panic, how she had only meant to move the coffee away. Tears welled up, real ones, or so it seemed. She claimed immense stress had made her react without thinking. Then her lawyer introduced something I never saw coming: medical records. Karen had been diagnosed with autism just 6 months prior as an adult. High masking, late diagnosis. She claimed the airport noise overwhelmed her sensory issues, and the meltdown had sent her into shutdown, causing her to react reflexively. I sat stunned. Even the airline lawyers looked thrown. Karen continued, revealing she had lost her own autistic son years ago to a sensory overload incident. Seeing Ethan meltdown had triggered the trauma. The courtroom went silent. I felt a strange twist inside me. Was this real or the most manipulative performance I'd ever witnessed? Then the airline's lead attorney dropped the bombshell. Karen's late son hadn't died from a meltdown. He'd suffered severe burns after pulling a pot of boiling water off the stove while she left the kitchen for just a second. She'd been charged with negligence, but the case was dismissed on a technicality. Since then, she had obsessed over controlling environments, HOA rules, airport complaints, anywhere she can force order to quiet her guilt. That day at the gate, seeing Ethan in distress had forced her to confront the memories she'd buried, and instead of helping, she repeated her worst mistake. The judge dismissed Karen's lawsuit immediately. The countersuit stood: assault, child endangerment, and full damages. The airline added a permanent no-fly ban across all partner carriers. Karen's lawyer begged for settlement, but the judge refused. She had to pay medical bills, pain and suffering, and a hefty penalty donated to an autism support charity in Ethan's name. As we left the courthouse, Ethan tugged my sleeve. "Mommy, is she sad like me sometimes?" I knelt down, throat tight. "Yeah, buddy, but being sad doesn't mean you hurt people." She's learning that now. A month later, an anonymous donation arrived at Ethan's therapy center, enough to fund sensory rooms for dozens of kids. The note simply said, "I'm sorry, I'm getting help." Karen lost everything she used to control others: status, travel perks, her illusion of power. And somehow, from the worst day of our lives, Ethan learned that even when the world is too loud, there are people who will fight for him, and healing is possible. I still flinch at the smell of coffee in airports. But every time we fly first class, I buckle Ethan in, hand him his headphones, and remind myself, sometimes the real monster isn't the Karen screaming at the gate. It's the pain she carries that no one ever saw coming. If you enjoyed this story, hit subscribe. Every subscription motivates me to bring more dramatic HOA stories. Tap the bell so you never miss a new upload. I'll see you in the next story, where justice gets even more satisfying.